Hi everyone, in today's session we're gonna try to address a common problem that we see with Terraform is the up-to-dateness of the information that we have. As you see, the Azure RM provider is updated around every 2 weeks or so. So one of the common challenges that we have is to keep up with the pace of the updates. So today I'm gonna review one approach that I sometimes use when I wanna do refactoring. So I'm now in my VS Code environment where I have my module, and the approach that I'm going to take is to take a copy of the repo I want. So here I'm going to use a local clone of the Terraform provider, Azure RM, that I'm going to clone locally in order to have the data files locally so that I can refer to that when I'm using instructions for GitHub Copilot. So I'm doing a git clone locally on my environment. One of the things I'm going to be very careful about is pinning it to the same version that I'm using, because once I've done that, you'll see that I will have checked out the main branch, which is very likely not what your module is using. So in order to do that, we're going to look in the main file here, and I have the version that I'm using. So let's do the right pinning here. In order to do that, I will do a git checkout with the version tag, and I will be in the right version. I just go to the directory and do the right pinning. So I'm now detached, I'm not on a branch anymore. I'm on the exact point where my module is out. Okay, so right now we're going to try to do the refactoring of here one particular module, which is the backup vault.tf. We see a simple example for the this demo today. Of course, you can do that with a more complex environment. So here you see that I have this object. Let's pretend it's the first time we have an encounter with the Terraform provider Azure RM, and we don't really know exactly where things are at. So I can just open the chat here, and probably let me move that on the right hand side of the screen, because I hate the chat to compete with my file hierarchy. So here I can do that, and I can ask here at workspace. Remember, that's the command that we use when we don't know exactly where to go. We want to know where is defined the Azure RM data protection backup vault inside the /Terraform provider Azure RM directory structure. And I'm going to close that window so that it's not part of the context anymore. I'm going to have that mentioned, and let's see what we get. So the at workspace, remember, it's this operator that's going to do the filtering for you, or what might be the relevant information. And here it says, okay, the files are there. And I say, I want the definition in Golang resources inside the copy path directory only. So here I'm giving it a little bit more instructions in order for it to be guided, and it tells me, hey, okay, the resource is defined in this particular file. So you can open it here, and we can see that into Azure RM internal services and data protection. And we have all of our files, and I have data protection backup vault resource. So here we are. That's the file, and I will keep it open because that will be part of my context for my refactoring here. So here we are, and since I have this file open, I'm gonna ask it, I want you to update the hashtag file, and here I will put the backup vault. Remember, submodule backup vault.tf that I opened before. Update the backup vault.tf module definition based on the provider implementation in Golang. So here you see that I'm giving as much direction as I can to the Copilot engine. And I'm explicitly here specifying the files and the arguments. And here you can see that it's using two references. It's using this one, and it is using the backup vault.tf. So the backup vault resource, you can see I have resource group name, redundancy, location, I have identity, retention, duration, and it seems like it's missing a little bit of arguments here. Add additional attributes, not currently present in Terraform. So right now it's using the reference to this file, and you can see that it's added basically two attributes that are not present in my file. I can open here the backup vault, the backup vault.tf, and you can see that yes, there has been two additional arguments that are defined here. So do I want to accept the changes? Yes, there is actually redundancy, there is retention, duration in days, and soft delete. So I have three additions to that. Based on the provider, are these new attributes optional? And I will work with the file side by side here, and you can see that okay, it's given me some additional information around these. The type of attributes is as follow. So that's great. Maybe I can take the opportunity to do a little bit of refactoring as well here inside the variable file to update these types. So here what I want to do is same thing. I want to give it additional context on the type of the object. So I want to give it as well here the open file that exists for my data protection. So here I'm going to open that example as well, and I'm going to do the same operation here. I'm going to say, hey, update the variable type inside the variable type for the settings objects based on the provider type definition and the configuration.tfvars that we see here. So additionally, driving the context as well here, I want to say that I want to edit this file based on the provider and based on that. So let's see what we have here. We see that it's clearly not been able to map the object. So what I can do is force it to understand a little bit how the object mapping here. And I can see that inside these settings, the settings object in variable.tf. So here variable.tf inside the submodule, I mention that is mapping the backup vaults object in configuration.tfr. So this particular variable. I can use backup vault 100 here, and I can ask here for it to map those two objects together. So at least I will have an additional approach for the settings object here, and we can see that I have this variable type that has been done for me, and which it looks like a good attribute. I want again to add a little bit more context here, and I want to say here refactor settings with the strong typing in the object to map the data protection backup vault.go specification. So I want it to be updated and to reflect the object type. So let's see if we go a little bit further with this one. And we can see that here it has defined a little bit further the settings as they are defined into the provider. So here we have something. It has read clearly the object here. It has read the existing and the pre-existing type of object. So maybe I can just take that and I can just apply it directly to my variables.tf object. So again, I can accept the changes for that map. I can just specify that my object will have this definition, the string for the data store type, the redundancy, the region. Those are settings that we are going to find. The retention, soft delete, and tags. Those are attributes that I'm going to have as well. Since I'm here, I probably want to go a little bit further as well. And since I have the provider definition, I might want to add as well here the validation. So I can just ask it, can you add the validation constraints as per the provider specifications? And just to make sure, I can force again the Go prototype to be here. Maybe not, but let's just use it. And we can see that here we have a set of validation that we have. So we have this object, and here it seems that it's a map of object. But we know that here we are already iterated. So here settings is not a map, it's only an object. Refactor, please. Because you see here, it read the iterated object for backup settings, but actually the module iterates on that object already. So we don't need to have it as a map. So I could do the refactoring manually, or I could just ask Copilot to refactor it for me. It's always a trade-off that you want to do. Sometimes you want to do the change manually, and you're going to iterate after that, or sometimes you just want to completely take that iteration. So here you see I'm having that object here, and now I'm having something that look a little bit more plausible. And just I want to ask again the question here on add the validation constraint as per the provider validation. So add the validation constraint for the settings object as per the provider specification. So now I have this, and let's see if it takes us a bit further. Okay, so there's so many ways to do validation of the input in Terraform. Here you can see that this is one approach that checks everything into one way. That's one way that seems a little bit challenging. At least there's a lot of things into one condition. So I want to be more specific. Can you check attributes individually to have finer granularity in error messages? So at least now I'm going to try to have something a little bit more simple to troubleshoot for the user when there's a problem on the object type. Of course, if you have everything checked at the same time, it's not very easy. So having it verified individually as here might be a little bit more easy. So we can do that, we can validate that, and maybe we can just accept those changes here. So let's see what we can do. Let's see we accept those changes, and we don't have to accept blindly what we get, right? We can do a little bit of sanity check. And maybe one of the things that we want to check, for instance, is the retention duration in day, and we know that it's a number that will be between 14 and 180. So if we check at retention, do we have something like that between 14 and 180 days? So seems to be logic, seems to be valid. So here we see that the provider value must be on, off, or always on. That's the value I got automatically out of the definition. So at least we have a bit of refactoring. We have an object type, we have some settings. We can see in the change here that I was able to get here a couple of stuff, just 2 attributes. And since I was here, I took the opportunity to improve my my definition by having a stronger object typing, a validation. I could as well add the documentation, but we at least have some good stuff. So now, next step, we are going to see if it works, because ultimately that will be the ultimate judge. So I'm going there, I'm going to go inside my module, I'm going to browse in the example, and I'm going to here run the command, which is basically a Terraform plan. So Terraform plan, and I will see that if my old file continues to work, and if not, I'm going to do the required refactoring. We don't get it right from the first time, so let's see where it is and let's see what we need to do in order for it to work. Okay, so that was quick. We can see that in the module backupvault.tf that we have, we had a requirement for data store type required, but no definition was fine. So we can see here that yes, that's something I may have lost inside my variable. So here you see I just do definition and I just do tab and it automatically completed it for me. Do I have that in the variable, by the way? Yes, I have that. Okay, so let's see it again. So we have the plan file that is here. We see that very quickly we were able to catch up with the latest definition out of the provider, or at least the definition that matches with the provider I'm using. So it's a great way when you are keeping up with the update of the provider to use GitHub Copilot. Give it the context, give it the definitions that you want it to use to refactor your code. And that's an amazing way to always be green with your Terraform modules. Thank you for attending this session and see you next week for another session.